James Perrin, P-E-R-R-I-N, class of 1958. Let's see, when I was in my last year of college, I applied to 3 law schools, Harvard, Duke, and Penn. All 3 gave me scholarships, but I would have had to pay for room and board at Duke or Harvard, and money was a real problem. I could live at home and go to Penn. I had a full scholarship, so Penn was the obvious choice. Mr. Keaty was still on the faculty, but he was emeritus at the time. His office was across the hall from here. I don't think he taught any classes, although he would come into the law school. I had Foster Reeve for trusts and contracts, Leo Levin for evidence and civil procedure, Mr. Meacham for torts and wills and future interests, Mr. Fry for corporations, and something else I forget now.
What about your
It was good faculty. I enjoyed it.
What about your classmates?
I saw 4 of them today for the first time in 50 years, I think. I don't see too many of them anymore. One of them lives a couple miles from me. He's homebound, so he won't be here this weekend. A couple of others who lived close to me have died in the intervening period. A couple have moved away. Most of them are retired now. We've been out 55 years, and most of us are close to, if not 80. So at some point you have to call it a day. Nothing really memorable. It's pretty much ordinary career. After I left here, there was something called selective service that was a mandatory requirement then, and I hadn't completed my service obligations, so after I left here I was in the Army. After I got out of that, New Jersey had a mandatory clerkship, a 9-month clerkship. I got home from Fort Chaffee, Arkansas on a Sunday night, and the law office where I'd gotten a job over the Christmas holidays called Monday morning and said if I expected to take the next bar exam, I had to start my clerkship that day. So I went down to the office, picked up the papers to register for the clerkship, drove up to Trenton and filed them with the Supreme Court, and my boss gave me a couple of days off to get adjusted to civilian life, and then I started in the clerkship and took the bar exam the following November in '59, and fortunate enough to pass and started practicing in January 1960. I worked for another firm for 2.5 years, and at that point I decided I wanted to practice on my own. So I asked a friend if he would rent me space, and he did. And by that time I was getting jobs in the local community. I was a municipal prosecutor in the municipal court, and then I became municipal solicitor, and had a job in the housing authority. I ran a 10-story building for 17 years. It really was an uneventful practice. I wanted to eventually go into wills and future interests, wills, but I didn't know enough people when I first started out, so most of my practice was with other lawyers. They knew I had been on law review when I was here, and so they had me write briefs, and that pretty much sustained me for about 10 years. I got a reputation of, I guess, of writing decent briefs, ones that were worthy of being filed, so I got a lot of work that way. And then finally I started to outlive my clients, and wills and estates started to pick up, and the last, I would say, about 15, 20 years of my practice, that's all I was doing. I'm not sure what the focus is now, but when I went to law school, you weren't expected to learn the practical requirements of practice during the 3 years of law school. When I got out of law school and started my clerkship, I had never even seen a will, let alone prepared one. I really didn't know what interrogatories were. I didn't know what a deposition. Well, I knew what a deposition was, but I never actually participated in one. I had no practical experience at all because law school was designed to teach you how to think, to understand the legal process, and you spent 3 years doing that. And I remain convinced that that's a worthwhile way to teach law students. Yes, I know there are disadvantages of it. You come out of law school without knowing any of the practical aspects of practice, but that's what a clerkship is for. Unfortunately, too many lawyers have made clerkships into peonage, unpaid service. So the courts have pretty much done away with it. But when the clerkship system operated properly and with thoughtful consideration of the guys who were participating in it, and the law firm that I worked with did during my clerkship, I think that's the best system.
And lastly, do you have any advice for new Penn Law students or new lawyers?
It's too different for. I've been retired for 17 years, and the world is a different place now. I don't think I can give you any advice that would be worth hearing.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Okay, I don't think I've told you very much.